PhotoBeast, snap and capture, second nature, full of rapture. PhotoBeast, wild and free from the Carolinas. Come and see. Boom, ready for every click. Take a shot, make it stick.
But I want to show you something that's kind of important, and it's going to be on my desktop. And I took this picture at the zoo a few years ago, and it was a bobcat. I was just learning dodging and burning and trying to get that painterly effect. And if you look at the overall image, it did not come out that well.
Well, it sucks.
My dodging and burning is kind of sketchy if you look right here, and the painterly effect is just not spot on. And I think the software I was using for this was, there's Luminar AI out right now, but back then it was called Luminar 4 or Luminar 3. I started with Luminar way back in the day, and then they went to Luminar AI, Luminar Neo, and so forth, so forth. And you can get a really good Orton effect or a very nice glow with those softwares, but I'm going to teach you how to just use Lightroom and Photoshop. And a lot of the processes that we would have to do in Photoshop back in the day, we can pretty much do a lot of them in Lightroom. So let's go ahead and jump into the catalog. And the images that we actually posted yesterday, there are two of them. Here is one. I'll show you really quick. This was a blue jay right here. And there's another blue jay that we did. I love this image right here. Sometimes it's just certain images that really stand out to us. And then this was the other blue jay right here. So as you can see, and it has a very nice texture to the feathers. And that's what we want to try to achieve, is that beautiful texture inside of the feathers. But we also want to keep the eye, the beak, and the facial area sharp, but we also don't want to make the feathers look fake or grungy. And that's how you get these really nice images. And if you look at the background, we were mindful of our background. We got the bird to land on the tree stump, which was right next to the feeders, which was perfect. He posed for us. And we've even got like this little silhouette of some flower in the background and some colorful leaves and stuff. So I'm going to go into Lightroom and we're going to scroll over to yesterday's catalog. I actually just downloaded some pictures today too. So let's go yesterday. And you'll see here are some blue jay pictures where the blue jay was actually on that same spot. And the pictures themselves, these are ISO 4000, by the way. So if you look up here at the ISO, they are a very high ISO, and a lot of people are scared of ISOs. Now, what I do is I shoot with manual mode auto ISO, and then I set up the back wheel for exposure compensation. So all I have to do is use my shutter for fast or slow moving subjects, and I use my exposure compensation to look at the scene, read my exposure meter, and see if I potentially need some more light, or if I can take some light away. Even on high ISO images, sometimes I can knock the exposure down a little bit and preserve highlights, but also that brings my ISO down as well. So that's one of the little tricks that I do right there. And then if you look over here, these were the edited pictures. Now, if you look at this picture here, this was our final image, right? This was before we edited it, and this was after. This is what your normal person would do. They would just go in, take a picture like this, and he's blinking right here actually, and they would just go up here and they might say, let's give it like a little crop, let's get them on point, hit enter, we're going to go to basic, and we're going to hit auto and pop those colors out. The problem with doing this is the greens in the background are just overpowering the situation. So let's take the same image and let's edit it the way that we wanted to have that nice soft painterly look without being too soft and being sharp in all the right places. So let's start with this image here. This one will actually work, or we could do a hummingbird from today as well. It doesn't matter, but the first thing I'm going to want to do is come over here and make sure that, I have the right temperature. for the mood of the image. And I think right around 4,500 right here works for this image. And it's nice and green, but I'm going to actually add just a tad of magenta, and you'll see why in a minute. I'm going to pull up the shadows just a little bit. And highlights, I think I can leave them right about here. And the reason why I'm turning the highlights down a little bit, even though they're not blown out, is because we're going to do a little bit of dodging and burning in just a minute. But we're going to do all this in Lightroom. And then I'm going to show you a little secret that I do. Ouch. I'm going to show you a little secret that I do that actually, where we're going to do a radial gradient in the background just to make the subject pop a little bit more without overpowering the scene. We're going to take our texture up just a little bit, our clarity just a tad. And then our blacks, we're going to just pull those up just a tad because we want to keep the image soft. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go, and before we start doing a bunch of wild stuff, let's go ahead. We already have the crop that we want. And if you don't like the crop that you have, you can hit the O key in Lightroom, and that will show you other cool little crops or ratios to put them into. And if we were to hit the X key, that gives us this ratio right here, which is also nice. So let's go ahead and say that this was going to be our final image. And let's clean up the noise first. So all this can be done in Lightroom these days. So we're going to hit Enhance. We're going to go over here and hit Denoise right here. Apply the denoise and just let Lightroom kind of work its magic. It only takes about 60 seconds, but it takes an image that's kind of and makes it a lot better. Lightroom has now made this so you don't have to have a new image. They've made it a layer on top of your original image, which makes everything a lot easier. But if you look, it's a lot sharper than it was. But we're going to leave the picture at 200% right now because we're going to go to our sharpening tool. And you want to keep your radius between zero 0.5 and 1. And your Alt key is the trick to this right here. Find that sweet spot. 0.8 right here. I'm going to find the right detail. Just right when you start to see the detail, right when you start to see it, that's when you want to stop. You do not want to go too far with it because we just want to add just enough little detail. And then right about here. Okay. You don't want to make it too sharp because we're going to do an unsharp mask shortly. So don't worry about getting it too sharp right now. We're not done yet. It's like judging food before it's finished cooking. But we do want to go to our color mixer. And inside of the color mixer, this is where you want to focus on the background and the subject because we have two different layers going on here. Now we can do the subject first, where the subject is blue, and we can add a little saturation to the feathers and a little luminance to those feathers to make that bird pop. And if we were to take the magenta or the purple, I'm sorry, that also lightens the bird up a little bit. And that's why I was telling you take your highlights down a little bit because we can bring things back up down here in the colors with the color luminance. Um, if you were to take your saturation down, you can see the bird loses some of its color, but there's no green in this particular bird as if with a hummingbird. Now, hummingbird, you'd have to do a background layer and then pull the colors out that way separately because you don't want to take the greens out of the hummingbirds. But we're lucky that we're doing a bluebird. So let's take this blue jay. And like I said, we've already added a little saturation to the bird itself, but let's desaturate the background. Now, if I was to pull down all the green, this is a trick too with landscapes. I found over the last decade that there's usually a lot of times more yellows in a background. And what I mean by that is let's go to this picture over here, the one we were just looking at. This is your average edit that people post. And they're like, look at this bird in my yard. They got a great background. They got a great shot. All they need to do is denoise it, lightly sharpen it, get the white balance just right, and then just do a minor couple tweaks on it, and they would have an award-winning image. Okay. These are the tweaks that I'm going to teach you today. So if you were to go down here into the same HSL or color mixer panel, and you were just to take your yellows and just pull the yellows back and then the greens, look how much more the bird stands out. Do you see that? The green doesn't overpower anymore. And a lot of times in certain scenes, the greens will actually have more tingy yellow in them. So just by pulling the yellow slider down, you can get the background to look so much more better. And just look at that. So now we have this softer background, and we haven't even really started on the image yet, but the bird pops. The bird's the focal point. And you could do something like that with a vignette, if you don't want to do too much editing, and just go something like that and then feather it out. And you've got a lot more of a beautiful image than if you did something like I was just showing you a second ago. So, anyways, with those harsh greens and yellows, you don't want that harsh background. So let's get back to our image right here. This is the one we're working on because he's got that little half blinked eye. Okay, so right now we've already cleaned the image. We've got the little crop we want. We've kind of desaturated all those greens and yellows in the background. And we've just lightly um, did some minor tweaks here. And that's what a vignette would look on this, or a white vignette. It actually would look prettier with a white vignette, but we're not going to do any of that yet. Right now is where we're going to go to Photoshop. Okay, so edit in Adobe Photoshop. And this is where we're going to do our painterly and our unsharp mask. And it is super simple. And I'm going to give you the numbers right now. So grab a pen and paper. If not, I'll put them in a description. You can go down there and copy and paste them yourself. So here we go. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to hit Control and J. And what that does is it duplicates your layer. So now we have a duplicate layer, right? And as you can see, it's the exact same one. We're going to go all the way up to filters, and we're going to go to stylize and oil paint. That's our painterly look. Inside of here, you're going to want to put stylization, usually between a 2 and a 3. Okay. Cleanliness, you want to be between a 5 and a 6. Scale, between a 0.5 and a 1.0. Your bristle detail, keep it on right about 1. And this works for about 99% of the birds out there. I promise you. And most importantly, uncheck your lighting box. That box will be on by default. Uncheck the lighting because we don't want that light on this particular mask. Now, if we were to go into the oil paint window and we were to scroll up, you can see how beautiful this bird is already. Look at this. So hit OK and check this out. We're going to zoom in. Look how beautiful that little guy came out. Look at these feathers. Look how soft and glorious this little thing looks. But this isn't the end all be all, because I told you we got 2 more processes. So let's make a mask. Okay. So we're going to make a mask on that layer, but we're going to hit Control I and invert the mask. So you want your mask at this point to be black, and then hit B for brush, or go over and get your brush tool. And once you get your brush tool, you want your brush tool to be on white. And here's another little keyboard shortcut. If you hit the X key, it toggles between black and white, as you can see. And now we've got this beautiful, beautiful image. And if I hit Z for zoom and zoom back in, this is the original image. Now, what I want to do is make the image not too big, but not too small. I want to back it out just a little bit because I want to hit B and get my brush. But I want a nice big brush, and I'm going to hit X because I want it on white. And I'm going to go around the edges first. And make sure your opacity is on, I don't know, 25, 35%, something like that. You don't want it too soft, but you want to be able to go through and just brush your edges right now. And what this does is it makes your background nice and creamy. Okay. You can even, just for the background and the log and stuff, maybe take your opacity up to a 50 and just keep going like that. Because this is where that, like I like to say, je ne sais quoi happens. Okay. And that's just working on the background. And then we're going to feather it in right around the bird. And that's where I'm going to take it more down to like a 25, 27. Now I want to hit zoom because this is really important, and zoom in. Hit my space bar and pull it down. And then I'm going to make my brush a little bit smaller right here. And then I'm going to brush in these little bit of feathers, but this is where I need to turn my opacity down. I don't know, 20%, like right here. We're just going to lightly do the chest feathers and maybe the top of the bird, the little legs right there. Do not touch the beak and the eyeball. I know you're tempted to, but do not do it because we're going to do another mask in a minute called the unsharp mask. So leave it alone. I know you're tempted to say, oh, he's so soft and pretty, but kind of focus on the edge of the bird, those little edge feathers, and maybe some of the breast right there. Okay. Now, you can go right around under where the eye is. It just depends on the bird and the look that you're trying to achieve. Now, here's the next thing. We're going to want to go back to our background or our original layer, and we're going to hit Control J again and make another duplicate. Now, this is going to be our unsharp mask duplicate. You take this guy and slide them all the way up to the top. And then all our beauty went away that we just did because the mask that's all the way on the top is the one that we see. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go all the way back to our filters again. But this time we're going to go down all the way to other. Inside of other, scroll over and you'll see this little high pass. Click high pass and find the right radius. Okay. You can do anywhere between, I don't know, I'd say between a 2 and a 3. And that's what the unsharp mask is going to do. You can actually kind of zoom in and see how everything looks here. And I'm just going to hit OK at 3 pixels. And if we look over here, now we've ruined our picture, right? But don't worry, there's one last little trick. You're going to go to your blending modes. We are on normal. Go down and look at overlay, soft light, and look at the two of them and see which one looks better. I'm thinking, I don't know. I like them both. I like soft light for mine. So for my image, I'm going to take the soft light overlay and just leave that on and keep it on 100% opacity. It's fine. It is 100% fine because it is showing that beautiful painterly underneath. Basically, what we just did is we sharpened the beak and the eyeball and just got that little area a little bit more sharp. And if you want to at this point, I do this. I take my layer and I flatten the image. I'm done. It's a win-win. And one of the last things you can do is if you really, really want, grab the sharpen tool and just barely, just barely. And I'm talking about strength. I think I was a little too high there. Let me hit Control Z to undo that. Like at a 25%, just go tap, tap around the eye and the beak with the sharpen tool if you want. But like I said, I'm a Control Z mine. I like mine the way that it is, but that's up to you. So if you do want to add a little bit more sharpening, it's there. But be very, very careful with that sharpening tool because it will destroy stuff. So let's hit our Z for zoom again and let's back out and look. See, we got a pretty little picture here. And it's pretty. It really is. And one of the things I can do is I can add a little bit more blue to his eyeball too and give it that little sparkle. But for right now, I'm going to close this out. I've already flattened my image and I'm going to take it back to Lightroom. And there's going to be one last little thing that you can do if you want to. This is optional. So let me go ahead and close Photoshop. We're back in Lightroom. We have our image. I like to go over here and get a curves adjustment. And you could do this in Photoshop while you were there and take right around your midtones right here and find the little sweet spot right there and just pull the midtones up just a little bit because you don't want to pull all your shadows out. You want to keep a little bit of the mystique of the shadows. And you can also try to pull your highlights down just a little bit, but in my case, I like them. And then if you want, like I said, to give it that little extra, you can do some dodging and burning, and you can do all this in Lightroom. So create a new mask, hit brush, and just bump your exposure up, maybe like a 10 or a 15. I can never get the numbers on the numbers that I say. So, and then he's got some white fur over here. I'm just going to click around the eyes with the white fur right there. Get some of the little breasts so it stands out. And dodging and burning helps with that 3D look. Maybe do a little bit on the log there. And dodging and burning used to be such a pain in the butt process. I even went out and bought all this stuff for dodging and burning. I would think that I'd have to spend hours on it. But I take so many pictures, I don't have hours to spend on every picture. And I try to get the best look I can and the maximum or the fastest amount of time, if that makes sense. Now, let me go ahead and start one more mask. I'm going to hit brush again, but I'm going to take my exposure down, 10, 20, whatever. You can actually type it in there, just being lazy. And I'm going to work on, oh, shoot. What did I hit? Thought I had a mask there. So I need a new mask. It's like talking and driving. You have to pay attention. All right. So there we go. And just add a little bit of some of the black right around his eye and a little bit of black back to the beak. I think it's a little much. So I'm going to go from that to like a 7 there. And then I'm going to hit control, enter. And if anything, I really wanted to add a little sparkle. I like his eye the way that it is, though. Sometimes when you do too much, you just kind of overkill everything. And maybe I can put like a light matte on it or something like that. And there's our final image, the painterly look as promised. So I don't like to spend too much time, so I hope that this video has really helped you not to freak out and think, oh my God, it's going to take hours to edit gorgeous pictures, because that's not true. And the other huge thing about editing, and I even made a video about this, is half the process is getting the image. The other half is editing. And you saw that in the very beginning. If you were just to take an extra 5 to 10 minutes and you would go from something, like I said, that looked, and let's look at one more picture real fast. Like I said, most people would hit auto and they would do something like this. You would have an image that looks something like this and compared to something like this. So you tell me which one you think looks better. So anyways, give me a comment below. Tell me what you would like to see in the future. If you'd like to do some hummingbirds like this the same way, let me know. We'll make another video and I'll show you some tips and tricks on hummingbirds before they fly off. I know we're at the end of summer. I've only got about 4 left, and I wanted to get some pictures of them before they leave, or I should say some more pictures of them, because I think I have about 10,000 already, give or take a few hundred. But anyways, I love you guys. Make sure to check out the PhotoBeast Masterclass, and also have a PhotoBeast sharing page on Facebook. I'll put a link in the description. If you have any questions about your images, bring them over to the PhotoBeast sharing page. Share them with me, and I will give you live one-on-one feedback and help for free. So no strings attached. I just love helping people. I love you guys. I'll see y'all in the next video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Take care.
Ready for every click, take a shot, make it stick.